I stayed silent when my wife chose a cruise with her ex, then used her public betrayal, hidden assets, and precision planning to erase her entire life. I swear to God, Janine, if you board that cruise with him, I'm gone. I didn't yell. I didn't slam my fork down or throw a glass like in one of those overly dramatic soap operas she watches while pretending to work from home. I just said it like a weather report. Calm, neutral, like I'd already accepted the hurricane was coming and I was just covering the windows. She blinked at me across the candlelit table. The risotto was cooling, untouched. Outside, the Gulf Coast breeze tapped against the glass like it wanted to be in on the conversation. Then she laughed. Not just a chuckle, a full, sharp-bellied, mascara-cracking laugh. "It's just a cruise, Richard. You're being dramatic," she said, swirling her wine like this was some kind of rom-com, not the slow bleed ending of our marriage. "Listen, quick break. We set a goal to hit 10,000 subscribers. So tap subscribe if you're liking these wild stories of betrayal. Now let's get back to the madness." She clinked her glass against mine and added, "I need a break. We need a break. It's not like I'm going to bang my ex on a buffet table." Funny, considering I hadn't even mentioned Frank yet. That little slip of the tongue was more revealing than she realized. I didn't blink. I just raised my glass back, drained the last of the Pinot Noir, and set it down gently on the linen napkin like a man finishing the last move in a long, quiet game of chess. Then I smiled, not the kind she could decode. This one was the old Richard smile, the pre-retirement one, the one I used when I outnegotiated 3 generals and a German liaison in a locked NATO room, with nothing but a whiteboard and a marker. She didn't recognize it. She never paid attention to the old me. That night, while she was in the bathroom giggling with her friend over FaceTime, probably showing off the matching cruise tickets, I logged into an account she hadn't seen in a decade. The username, one she used to mock, Aviator1973. She never thought to delete it from the cloud, and I never told her I had synced it to my private drive. The first thing I saw was a folder labeled Girls Trips. It hadn't been opened in years. I clicked it, expecting selfies, wine tastings, maybe beach photos with emojis over cleavage. What I found was way more valuable. Timestamps. Same hotel lobby in Tampa 4 years in a row. Frank's watch and the reflection of her sunglasses. His tacky tribal tattoo in the corner of a selfie. She cropped too tightly. I exhaled slowly, not from shock, from the weight of being right again. So, I did what any rational aerospace engineer would do. I started building my launch sequence. While she posted a photo captioned, "Wife of the Year maybe next year," with a smirk that could slice marble, I opened a new spreadsheet, not for revenge, for logistics. Her face glowed from the screen across the room. She hadn't even gone on the cruise yet, and she was already posing like a trophy wife for a man who hadn't worked a day since the Bush administration. I looked at the condo. My condo. She never paid a cent into this place, but she walked around like the queen of some Instagrammer's side. The art on the walls was mine, the furniture mine, even the damn ceramic flamingo in the hallway mine, and Frank would be laying on my bed with my wife drinking cocktails I paid for. Until now. I opened a locked drawer in my home office and pulled out a key. It was small, rusted, had a red tag on it that said backup in my own handwriting. She'd probably never noticed it because she never dusted in here. I held it in my palm for a second. It was cold, solid, real, and unlike Janine's promises, it had never lied to me. 2 days later, she left like she was heading to brunch. Light, careless, sunglasses on indoors, dragging that ridiculous rose gold suitcase that matched her Instagram persona more than her actual life. No kiss, not even a glance back, just the sound of her roller bag clicking down the condo hallway and her saying, "Don't wait up," like this was some cutesy joke and not the final nail in a 23-year marriage. I didn't wait up. The second the door shut, I walked to our bedroom, to the walk-in closet, hers technically, but she made it mine the day she stepped over the line. There, buried behind shoeboxes labeled with brands I could never pronounce right, was a drawer with a broken lock I had replaced years ago. She thought it was jammed. I let her think that. Inside sat the key, simple metal, labeled with a piece of duct tape and my old sharp handwriting, "Backup." I stared at it for a moment, not for sentiment, but calculation. This wasn't a key to an escape. It was a key to a beginning I'd quietly preserved in case the storm ever came. The drive took 40 minutes, 3 towns over, a place we never visited because the neighbors were too quiet, as she once put it. What she meant was, there were no followers to impress out there, no beach clubs, no brunch crowd to validate her tan or her filtered posts. I punched in the code on the keypad. The wrought iron gate buzzed and creaked open like it was welcoming me home. It was still mine. The deed was still in my name. I had never sold it. She'd assumed I had when we moved into the condo, just like she assumed I canceled that life insurance policy after we merged finances. She never asked. She just believed I was harmless. The property was exactly how I left it. A single-level stone house with hurricane-proof windows, solar panels, and a 3-car garage. Quiet, clean, unseen. Inside, the air smelled like cedar and dust. Untouched, unbothered. The kind of place you keep, not because you need it, but because you never know when the world will betray you. I walked through each room like I was reloading an old operating system. The second bedroom still had its file cabinets, the home office its backup server. I opened the wall safe, typed in the code, her birthday ironically, and heard the mechanical whir as it popped open. Everything was there. The alternate accounts, the documents, the notarized papers she never knew existed, even the duplicate of our prenup, the original one. Not the updated version she had me sign after her mother's estate payout. This one had the clause, the one she forgot or ignored. I flicked on the lights and sat down at the heavy oak desk. Then I started the clock. While Janine was snapping selfies in a floral bikini with Frank's meat pod arm wrapped around her waist, captioning it, "Making up for lost time sun-kiss Mark," I was making a different kind of memory, one that wouldn't fit in a carousel post. My laptop glowed. First call, my attorney. I gave her the property address, confirmed active ownership, and told her to prepare the trust update. Second call, a locksmith. Third, the firm managing my offshore account. Every wheel I greased years ago began to turn again, quietly, without friction, like they'd been waiting for this moment. You don't build rockets for a living without learning to prepare redundancies. She thought she was sailing away on some turquoise dream with the ghost of her high school fling. She had no idea I was already building the landing pad for me and the eject seat for her. Wednesday morning, the Florida sun poured through the blinds of the stone house like nothing had changed, but everything had. I sipped my black coffee, no sugar, no cream, scrolling through the digital battlefield that was Janine's Instagram. She'd always said she used it to stay connected. I used to believe that before I realized connected meant validating herself with curated chaos and filtered nostalgia for people she hadn't seen since the Bush administration. And there it was. Mid-feed posted at 6:48 a.m. Eastern, which would be just before breakfast service on the ship, the kind of hour when your mask slips because you think the world's still sleeping. A photo. Janine in a white robe, with hotel embroidery on the lapel, melting, into Frank's chest like he was her goddamn savior and not the man who once called her dead weight behind her back at a barbecue I hosted. Caption, "Some things just feel right again. Dizzy Sun passenger ship. No shame, no ambiguity, and crucially, no privacy settings." She tagged the cruise company, geotagged the ship, even added a little heart next to his name in the comments. Frank had replied with, "Couldn't agree more, babyface. Blowing kiss. Classy." My fingers didn't hesitate. I took a screenshot, then another, just in case. Then I clicked share and sent it directly to my attorney with the message, "This post confirms emotional infidelity. Public. Timestamped. She's done." But I wasn't finished. I scrolled back through my phone, found a number I hadn't dialed in years. Devin Caraway, silent investor, discreet problem solver. Back when I managed classified aerospace logistics, he handled things quietly, legally, strategically. He answered on the second ring. Still efficient. "Richard, it's time." There was a pause. She made it public. She practically submitted it for a magazine spread. "Good," he said. "Then she's no longer an uncertainty. She's a liability, which means we move forward." The call ended without a goodbye. It never needed one. Next, I opened a shared file I'd been quietly assembling since before she left, an asset map of everything joined, everything she assumed would be hers in the event of a separation. She thought infidelity only mattered if there was sex, a scandal, a confession. What she didn't know, what most people don't, is that documented emotional betrayal, when public and tied to shared finances, gives you teeth in the right jurisdictions. And we were in exactly the right jurisdiction. Her posts weren't just tacky, they were legally idiotic. She had openly mocked me, boarded a romantic cruise with her ex, and declared emotional fulfillment with another man while married. While on our dime, on my dime. And she tagged the cruise company. That meant proof of joint expenditure on a romantic getaway that benefited her and another man. That meant marital assets being used to indulge an extramarital relationship. That meant grounds, not just for divorce, for clawback. I opened my files, line by line, account by account. I began marking everything she had touched in the past year that could be labeled a luxury. The spa days, the work trips that I now knew were rendezvous. The shopping sprees she told me were networking expenses. I flagged them all. When you've managed billion-dollar defense contracts, you learn to document every cent like it's a landmine. The funny part, she thought she had the upper hand, thought I was some soft, retired man whose biggest threat was an icy stare and a passive-aggressive comment over dinner. She forgot who I was before retirement. She forgot I used to outmaneuver generals and senators with nothing but a spreadsheet and a smirk. Let her keep posting. Let Frank keep commenting. Every click was just another nail in their social media-shaped coffin, and I was already carving the gravestone. At 7:14 a.m. The next morning, I sent one email with the subject line, Initiate Adjustment Protocol, Tier 1. No emotion, just instructions. By noon, the paperwork was already in motion. The firm that handled my living trust didn't ask questions. That's why I chose them. Quiet professionals with no appetite for drama, only precision. I had set it up long ago during my final year overseeing multinational aerospace logistics, just in case. Redundancy, as we called it. Backup plans for the backup plan. By 8 p.m. that night, the condo in Naples, yes, that condo, the one Janine filled with overpriced marble vases and those hideous abstract paintings of empowered women, was no longer part of the marital estate. Legally, it had shifted into an irrevocable trust under our daughter's name. Same with the Tesla she bragged about leasing herself, and the Audi she kept in the garage for beach days, and the rental property in Port Charlotte, gone from her reach. Moved into a holding company under my signature, and that holding company, well, the only other signer on it now was Vanessa. I wasn't doing this to punish Janine. I wasn't chasing revenge. Not yet. I was insulating everything she had touched but never truly owned. She thought marriage gave her access. She forgot marriage doesn't erase paperwork or intent. I pulled out a weathered folder from the desk drawer. It still smelled like old toner and pine. Inside, our original prenup, the one she thought we revised together after her inheritance came through. But I never tore up the original. Just let her believe I had. Like I said, redundancy. That folder would matter later. For now, I was focused on removing her financial fingerprints from everything I had built. Janine liked to say, marriage is about sharing, but what she meant was, you build, I decorate, and we call it equal. Except I remembered the nights I slept in server rooms in Berlin, while she was busy tagging Frank in old throwback posts and calling it just nostalgia. No, it was preservation time. Every account I touched got a new beneficiary. Every access point got reset. Even the Wi-Fi passwords changed. But the message that mattered most wasn't sent to my attorney. It was sent to my daughter. Vanessa was 28, smart. Not just book smart, but eyes wide open smart. The kind that asks questions in quiet rooms and listens longer than she talks. She'd always known something wasn't right with her mother's performative chaos, but she never said it outright until now. I typed subject, check your email, you'll understand soon. Attached notarized trust revisions, asset updates, and a simple chart titled, in case you ever doubt where you stand. She didn't reply right away. Vanessa wasn't impulsive. She'd read every line twice before calling, and sure enough, 5 hours later, the phone rang. Dad, she said, did something happen? Your mother made a choice, I replied, so I made some too. There was silence. Is she with Frank? She posted about it. She exhaled slow. I remember that bastard. He used to call me kiddo like he forgot my name. I let that hang. Then she said the words I didn't expect. Do I need to prepare for anything? I paused. Only to keep what's yours, I said. We didn't say goodbye. We didn't need to. She understood. Janine had always believed that Frank was some lost fairy tale that got away. She never realized I was the one who stayed for her, for our daughter, for the house, the bills, the goddamn gardenia she insisted on planting, even though she hated bugs. Now she could have her fairy tale. I was writing a new story, one with no rose-colored filters, and it had already begun. The call came after dark. Vanessa never called late unless something was wrong or something was burning. This was both. Dad, she said, voice low, direct. I saw Mom's post. I didn't ask which post. I knew exactly which one had lit the match. She didn't wait. Is that Frank? I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence do the talking. Let her sit with the weight of it. That kind of quiet has gravity. So it is, she muttered. Jesus. Another pause. I could hear her shuffling, maybe pacing. She always paced when the walls in her brain started closing in. I remember him, she said finally. He cheated on her with who was it? Her friend, right? Some woman from her yoga class. I said nothing. Not because I didn't remember, but because she remembered. Vanessa was 13 when the Frank incident happened. Too young to understand everything, but old enough to overhear her mother screaming into a wine glass on the phone and calling someone a Pilates prostitute. Frank had been a footnote ever since. In an erased chapter, Janine tried to rewrite through healing and letting go. What she meant was reshaping history until it fit the version that made her look brave, not broken. Vanessa continued. So, let me get this straight. She dumps you emotionally for years, spends your money like Monopoly cash, and now she on a cruise with the one guy who gutted her before you ever came into the picture? Still, I said nothing. She laughed. It wasn't a happy sound, more like a dry, exhausted cough from the soul. Well, okay then, quieter. Do I need to prepare for anything? I closed my eyes, not in pain, in purpose. Only to keep what's yours, I said. The line went silent. I imagined her in her apartment, the one I helped her finance 2 years ago. The one Janine said was too modest for someone with her last name. Vanessa standing barefoot in her kitchen, the fridge humming, the email still open on her screen, the documents, the trust transfer, the clause with her name highlighted, and beneath it my handwritten note. You are not a casualty. You are the heir. She finally spoke again. Does Mom know yet? No, I said, but she'll feel it soon. Vanessa cleared her throat. And Frank? He'll feel it first. She didn't ask how. She didn't need to. That's the difference between Janine and Vanessa. Janine chased moments. Vanessa understood momentum. We talked a few more minutes, nothing heavy. She asked if I was eating well. Classic daughter script, and I told her yes. I didn't mention I'd been eating at the same kitchen table she used to do her science fair projects on, the one Janine tried to throw out when we moved because it didn't match the coastal aesthetic. After the call, I stared at the old family photo framed on the wall of the stone house. The three of us, Janine in a white sundress, Vanessa in pigtails, me in a shirt I hadn't worn since 2011. Back then, it looked like a family. Now, it looked like foreshadowing. I pulled it down and placed it in a drawer. Janine had chosen her past. Vanessa was my future. And I'd already started making sure it would never be hijacked by people who thought loyalty was a game you only played when the camera was on. The man was already sitting at the cafe when I arrived, punctual, sharp, and drinking an espresso like he was auditioning for a cologne ad. He wore a slate gray suit with a subtle pinstripe and no tie. Everything about him said precision, from the folded pocket square to the absence of dog hair on his trousers. In Naples, that was a statement in itself. No wasted motion, no frills, just calculated presence. He stood as I approached, extended a firm hand, and introduced himself only as Marcus. We sat without small talk. Neither of us were there for conversation. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket and pulled out the fob. It was small, black, Bentley insignia polished to a perfect, arrogant gleam. Park it, I said. Exact spot. Her condo, same place she used to pull into after Pilates, wine tastings, and whatever else she pretended was productive. Marcus nodded once. Facing out, I added. I want her to see the grill first. He took the key and slid it into his jacket pocket like it was a museum artifact. And if she approaches, you don't speak, I said. You wait. You stand by the driver's side casually like you belong. She'll fill the silence all on her own. He raised an eyebrow. She'll think I'm you. Exactly, that smile of his, the kind a surgeon makes when handed the right scalpel, crept across his face. So I plant the seed. You're the seed, the pot, and the water, I replied. Let her mind do the gardening. He finished his espresso in one sip, stood and buttoned his jacket with a practiced flick. I handed him a printed photo, an aerial shot of the parking lot with her space marked in red ink. Old habits die hard. She always parked in that one, even after I told her I paid extra for covered. You don't go inside, I said. I don't speak. I don't move unless she speaks first. Got it? And if she asks why you're there, he grinned. I'll smile. I nodded. Good man. We didn't shake hands again. He simply walked off, his steps measured, his posture like a man who owned the sidewalk. I watched him cross the street, slide into the driver's seat of the Bentley I'd had trailered in from storage that morning, and merge into traffic like smoke. That Bentley, deep navy, chrome trim, custom plates removed, wasn't just a car, it was a message. Not loud, not flashy, just impossible to ignore. I'd bought it before Janine ever knew Frank existed, back when we still believed in things like anniversaries and joint retirement plans. She hated it, called it excessive, said it was trying too hard, but she posted it to her story the day it arrived, called it our new ride with champagne in hand. Of course, when Frank rolled back into her life with his Jeep and his spontaneity, suddenly my car was a symbol of ego. Let's see what it symbolized now. Because what Janine never understood, what people like her never understand, is that sometimes the most powerful message is presence. You don't need confrontation, just placement. Let her come home sun-kissed and smug, dragging her suitcase behind her like a badge of defiance, only to see something waiting in her sacred little space. Not a man, not an argument, just a silhouette, a reflection, a question with no answer. That's how you start to break someone. Not with anger, with silence and a Bentley. The ride-share pulled in slow, like even the car could sense something was off. Janine was in the back, sunglasses too big for her face, hair still styled in that cruise ship blowout way she thought screamed youth, but now just made her look like someone trying to relive a decade that never wanted her in the first place. The driver didn't even finish turning into the lot before he hesitated because something was in her spot. Not just a car. The car, a navy Bentley. Paint so polished it caught the setting sun and threw it back like it was spiting the sky. Clean, parked perfectly, nose out, grille gleaming like teeth, dead center in the space she'd always claimed as hers. The space she once told the condo board she'd manifested after a vision board workshop. And standing next to it with the calm of a man who knew exactly what he was doing was Marcus. Black suit, hands behind his back. Nothing about him rushed or confrontational. Just there. The driver looked over his shoulder. "Is this the right place, ma'am?" Janine leaned forward, squinting. The shift on her face was almost imperceptible at first, cocky confusion laced with the kind of privilege that assumes everything is a mix-up until proven otherwise. "Yeah," she said, "that's my spot. Probably someone new." But when she stepped out, the air hit her harder than expected. Not the heat. She was used to Florida's humidity, but something colder. Something in the way the car didn't belong and yet looked like it owned the place. She pulled her suitcase out of the trunk, heels clicking, and walked straight toward Marcus. "Excuse me," she said, loud enough for condo windows to hear. "This is my spot." Marcus didn't flinch, didn't respond, just looked at her with the kind of serene expression that makes people question their own tone. She tried again, more force this time. "I said, 'This is mine.'" And then he handed her the envelope. No words, just a smooth, deliberate reach into his breast pocket. The crisp white rectangle, extended like a chess move made 3 turns ago. She hesitated because people like Janine don't get handed things without explanation. They get compliments, drink menus, and shopping bags, not silent envelopes from strangers parked in their life. She took it. Her fingers lingered on the flap. Marcus stepped back, just one step, then walked around to the driver's side of the Bentley and waited. Didn't start the engine, didn't open the door, just waited. Janine stood frozen for a beat too long. Then she tore the envelope open. Not gently, not with curiosity, but with that nervous aggression that comes when you feel the story shifting away from you. Inside, a single sheet of paper typed. No letterhead, no signature, just one sentence. "You went on the cruise. I stayed on land." That was it. No threats, no legal jargon, no apology, just a statement. Her lips moved as she read it a second time, then a third. Like the repetition might unlock some hidden kindness in the tone. But there wasn't any. Her eyes darted to the Bentley again, then to the man who still hadn't driven off, and then finally to the condo. Her condo, except now it looked different. Not physically, but something was wrong. She pulled her phone out. No missed calls, no texts. She tried mine straight to voicemail. Then our building manager, same thing. Then Vanessa, blocked. She looked up at the unit again. The blinds were drawn, lights off. No welcome home energy, no warm familiarity, just walls and silence. She dragged her suitcase forward, but her steps had changed. Slower now, cautious, because this wasn't her return. This was her discovery. Janine turned the key like she still believed the world was waiting on the other side of that door. That her plants would still be blooming on the sill. That her favorite candle would still be burning low. That life would continue to bend in her direction simply because she assumed it always had. The door creaked open. A wave of air met her. Not stale, not musty, just sterile. Like the place had been vacuum sealed in her absence, like someone had pressed pause. But it hadn't paused, it had ended. She stepped in, suitcase dragging across the entry tile, and for a moment, she didn't notice. She called out automatically, "Richard?" Nothing. She rolled her eyes, seriously. Then she really looked. The entry table, gone, not missing, gone. The photo wall with the family portrait she arranged to look casual for her followers. Bare. Small, faded outlines remained where the frames had once hung. Like ghosts of a life already archived. She moved to the closet, her heels clicking louder now in the silence. She pulled the door, expecting rows of her color-coded shoes and that row of his suits she'd always pretended annoyed her. Empty, every hanger swinging gently, like something had been removed just moments ago. The floor was spotless, the laundry basket gone. The shelf where she stored gift bags and holiday wrapping paper, cleared. She rushed to the bedroom, flung open the second closet, hers. It was still there, but not how she left it. A few wire hangers remained. No bags, no scarves, no dresses. The jewelry case gone. The floor safe behind the shoe rack open, not cracked or broken, open properly. The code she once claimed only she knew had been used. The door swung wide like a sneer, nothing inside, not the heirloom necklace, not the cufflinks from their 20th anniversary, not the emergency cash she kept rolled in a T10, gone. She stumbled into the kitchen, breath shallow now, opened a drawer, cutlery still in place. But the wine drawer empty, no corkscrew, no bottle of Pinot she had left for a special night. The fridge held only filtered water and half a lemon. The microwave clock was blinking 12 o'clock. A reset. On the counter sat a single sheet of paper. No envelope this time, just bold black ink on plain printer stock. You went on the cruise, I left on land. Same sentence as before, but this one cut. She stood there, the note, shaking in her hand. She started like she could find something that would make this all temporary. A charger, a remote, a goddamn coffee mug, anything. But the condo had become a showroom. Neat, emotionless, vacant. She picked up her phone. Tried me again. Blocked. Tried Vanessa. Straight to voicemail. She texted, call me. Where is everything? Is this some kind of joke? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. She moved to the fridge to find the magnet notepad where we kept numbers. Plumbers, dog sitter, handyman. One stood out, Michael. Property manager. Below it, a local number. Property manager? We didn't have one. We owned the condo, she said it herself at parties. Fully paid off. That line was practically her brand. She called the number. Michael speaking, said a warm and different voice. Yes. Hi, this is Janine, the owner at Unit 4C. Pause. Oh, Mrs. Stanton. Actually, the new leaseholder listed it as Vanessa Stanton. Are you authorized to be there? She didn't speak. Ma'am, I live here, she muttered. There was a long, polite pause. The kind people give you before pulling a rug out. Not according to the documents I have in front of me. You might want to get in touch with Miss Stanton directly or her legal rep. They're listed as your emergency contacts. He hung up. She stood in the middle of what was once her kitchen in her vacation robe, mascara still crusted under her eyes, and for the first time in years, Janine didn't know who she was or where she belonged. 2 days after the empty condo greeted her like a mausoleum, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrived at Janine's new short-term rental, forwarded. No return name, just a high-rise office suite address embossed on the corner. She opened it like it was an olive branch. Part of her still believed this was Richard's version of an apology, a formal, dramatic gesture that would end in some kind of theatrical reconciliation. Maybe flowers, maybe a second chance to cry. She thought maybe he'd realized he overreacted, that she'd walk into some polished conference room and find him there with tired eyes and a speech about forgiveness and how nobody's perfect. She dressed like that's what she expected. Soft blouse, slightly undone collar, perfume he used to say reminded him of the old Janine, the pre-Frank Janine. She practiced a few lines in the mirror, a touch of guilt, a little humility, just enough vulnerability to hook the part of him that used to soften when she cried. But when she arrived at the glass-paneled office suite, the receptionist barely looked up, just gestured to a boardroom door and said, "They're expecting you." They? The door opened smoothly. Inside sat Richard, not crumpled, not crushed, immaculate navy jacket, crisp shirt, cufflinks she hadn't seen in years, the ones Vanessa gave him for his last day at the company. To his left, Vanessa poised, cold-eyed, hair pulled back in a style Janine had always said was too severe. To his right, a woman in a black suit, face unreadable. Papers in front of her arranged like scalpels on a surgical tray. Janine stopped in the doorway. "Hi," she said, voice faltering for the first time in weeks. "I got your letter." No one stood. "Sit," Richard said, nodding to the only open chair. At the end of the table, like a job interview or a trial, she sat. Then the screen on the wall lit up. A video started to play. High definition, crystal clear. Janine on the cruise, wrapped in a white robe holding a mimosa. Frank in the background, shirtless, flashing a peace sign. And then her voice, "Best week of my life, no more boring nights. No more rules." Laughter. Her laughter. Off screen. Someone says something vulgar. She doesn't flinch. The clip ends. Silence. Janine looked from the screen to Richard. That was private. It was public, said the woman in the suit. You tagged the cruise line and geolocated the post. Janine's face twitched. Richard slid a document toward her. She picked it up, expecting the word divorce to scream at her from the page. It didn't. Instead, the top read, Asset Transfer Agreement, Post-Infidelity Allocation Retroactive. She began to skim. Her throat tightened with every line. The Naples condo already reassigned to Vanessa. The Port Charlotte rental moved to an LLC under Richard's name alone. Every vehicle, every joint account, even the furniture she claimed as hers in the division talks that never happened, listed, itemized, and already moved or sold. I don't understand, she stammered. This can't be finalized. It is, said the attorney. You failed to contest the fiduciary amendment sent via certified mail last month. 10-day response window. No reply. Legally binding. She turned to Vanessa. You knew about this? Vanessa didn't blink. I approved it. Why would you? Because, Vanessa said, her voice cutting clean through the air. You're not the only one who remembers Frank. Janine looked at Richard. He stared at her like a man watching a window close on a storm. This isn't revenge, she said. It's restoration. You spent years erasing the man who built the life you wasted. I just made sure you don't get to decorate the ashes. The lawyer stood. You'll receive a formal summary within 3 business days. You'll also be contacted regarding relocation logistics. The rental lease expires in 20 days. Janine stood, shaky now. This isn't fair, she whispered. This is cruel. Vanessa looked at her with eyes that didn't blink. No, she said. This is what fair looks like after you spit in the face of someone who stayed. The room didn't move. Janine did. But the woman who walked out wasn't the one who strolled onto that cruise. That woman thought she could manipulate an ending. This one had just watched someone else write it for her, line by line. The sun had dipped low by the time Janine stepped out of the boardroom. Her blouse clung to her back with sweat that wasn't from the Florida heat. Her purse hung heavier now, not from weight, but from irrelevance. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure where to go next. There was no lunch reservation, no afternoon facial, no back pocket plan involving charm and leverage. She just stood there blinking at the bright sidewalk like someone who'd missed a step on the stairs and realized the whole staircase was gone. Then she saw it. The Bentley, same car, same navy paint, same mirror-smooth finish that made it look dipped in arrogance. Parked across the street, angled just enough to be unmistakable. Except this time, it wasn't Marcus behind the wheel. It was Vanessa, sunglasses on, one hand casually resting on the steering wheel, elbow propped like she'd been driving it her whole life. And in a way, maybe she had been, just not from the front seat until now. Janine's breath caught. Vanessa didn't wave, didn't smirk, didn't even glance over. She just reached down, shifted the car into gear, and pulled away without a sound, leaving behind nothing but silence and the faint smell of leather and finality. That was the goodbye. Behind her, the office door clicked open one last time. Richard stepped out. No coat, just shirt sleeves rolled up like a man done with the paperwork and already halfway into the next chapter. He didn't rush to catch up, didn't hover, just walked up beside her like two strangers waiting for separate taxis. She turned to him, finally finding her voice. So that's it? He nodded once. He said that cruise felt right. He reached into his breast pocket and handed her something. Not an envelope, not a document, a check. She looked down. Handwritten, dated. Amount $3,250. Memo, final mortgage contribution refund. Her hand trembled. This is a joke. He tilted his head. No, this is accurate. That's what you paid toward the condo net, after I subtracted the nights you spent with Frank on my dime. She stared at it, at the numbers, at the cruel, meticulous arithmetic of it all. He stepped back. And don't worry, he added, that's pre-tax. Consider it my last act of generosity. Then he turned and walked away, not like a man storming off, but like someone who had arrived somewhere else. No raised voice, no parting insult, just a nod, a refund, and a quiet exit. Janine stood there for a long time, check fluttering slightly in the breeze. She wasn't crying. Not yet. Because it takes a few minutes for the body to register that it's no longer part of the story, only part of the receipt.